Welcome to Penlight Click. Today, the history of information technology. In this video, we will review the important stages of the advancement of information and communications technology. They have punctuated the life of human beings, from the beginning of history until now. Many people believe that information and communications technology originated in the 20th century. In fact, it was born as soon as human beings sought to communicate with each other, to exchange messages, with means other than language, and to memorize information on a physical medium, transportable or not. Let's take a trip back in time. At about 3,300 years before Jesus Christ, among the Sumerians, we find the invention of writing. It gave birth to communication and information technology, to its recording on a physical medium, and to its transport in space and in time. This is the beginning of history. This writing was not alphabetical at the beginning. It was first logographic, then syllabic. The need to count everyone's possessions, to measure angles, and that of astronomical calculation, prompted the Sumerians to invent the first numbering system, almost at the same time. This system was additive, and had a base equal to 60. This base 60 is used until today for the measurement of the angles in degrees, and to count the time in minutes, and in seconds. Later, around 2,000 years before Jesus Christ, their heirs, the Babylonians, improved this system. They introduced the position for the first time in the representation of a number, in addition to the two basic symbols, the nail and the chevron. The positional numeration was born, the zero being represented by an empty space. This positional numbering system will be used in the 10-digit decimal representation, by Indian scholars, then by Arab and Muslim scholars, more than 2,700 years later. If we progress in time, at about 1500 years before Jesus Christ, we find among the Phoenicians the invention of the alphabet. From this alphabet, are issued the different current, modern alphabets. Let's jump 20 centuries ahead. In 1450 AD, in Germany. In the city of Mainz, Gutenberg has just developed the printing process. And so, with this invention began the era of mass communication. In 1454 the first book, the Bible, known as Gutenberg's Bible, was printed. 2 centuries after Gutenberg, in 1645 in France, the physicist-mathematician Pascal presented his mechanical calculator, considered to be the first calculating machine. It allowed to add and to subtract two numbers in a direct way, and do multiplication and division by repetitions. Shortly after Pascal's machine, in 1689, the German mathematician Leibniz invented the binary number system. This system uses only the characters 1 and 0 to do the arithmetic calculation. Mathematicians often invent calculation systems, which at first glance are useless. Apart from Leibniz finding theological symbolism in his binary digits, no one saw any practical applications. Until the birth of modern digital technology, 2.5 centuries later, in the 20th century. That which will constitute, as we will see later in this video, the fundamental element of information representation, its saving in memory, and its communications. It was in the year 1837, that the application for the first time in the USA, of electrical signals to communicate information remotely. This was the invention of the electric telegraph by Morse, an artist-painter. He had developed an ingenious coding of the Latin alphabet into short and long electric impulses. It was the birth of the first telecommunication system. Some time later, the Scottish-American physicist and engineer, Bell, uses the electrical signal to transmit speech. He invented the telephone in Boston in 1876, and created the Bell Telephone Company in 1877, which later became AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph. Many people from different countries have contributed to the development of image technology over the centuries. Among them the polymath Ibn al-Haytham, born in Baghdad. He carried out in the 11th century in Egypt the projection of images on a wall of a dark room, through a hole. At the beginning of the 19th century, chemists and engineers, such as Niepce in 1820 in France, and Daguerre in 1835 in France too, Talbot in 1839 in England, developed photographic processes for the chemical fixation of images, on a sensitive plate, using darkroom devices. But the invention of the photographic roll film as negative by Eastman in 1885 in the USA boosted photography, which became accessible to everyone. After making paper film, he switched to celluloid in 1889, which he used for his first camera, named the Kodak. With the beginning of the 20th century, starts a technological revolution in all fields, particularly in the field of information and communications technology. In 1901, the Italian engineer Marconi made the first radio transmission between Canada and England. In 1925, the Scottish engineer Baird, using a mechanical image decomposition disc, invented in 1885 by the German technician Nipkow, he made the first transmission of moving images. But thanks to the use of the cathode ray tube, invented in 1887 by the German physicist Braun, which permits the development of television. The first, fully functional and complete electronic television system, with receiver and camera, was produced by the inventor Farnsworth in the USA in 1927. The modern era begins in 1943, with the construction in the USA of the first programmable numerical calculators. This type of calculator uses binary coding for the first time. This year was the starting point of the digital revolution, which will spread quickly in a few decades, to all areas of life. Industry in all its forms, civil and military, science, telecommunications, education, medicine, management, audiovisual and media, economy and finance, commerce, arts and crafts, strategy, civil and military, decision-making, prediction and future projection calculations, services, social communications, etc. We are going to list some important stages in this development, which continues to accelerate. The first major event, therefore, was the construction of the ENIAC, Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, for military purposes, by Mauchly and Eckert at the University of Pennsylvania, which began in 1943. And it was put into service in 1945. ENIAC used wiring, rewiring, and switches for programming. At the start it had a simple RAM memory of only 20 binary words, 10 bits each, made up of electronic vacuum tube registers. It used about a total of 18,000 vacuum tubes, and occupied more than 93 square meters, and it weighed 30 tons. It was later added a 100 words memory built with magnetic cores. Due to its innovative electronic and digital technology, it is 1,000 times faster than the electromechanical computers that came before it. Indeed, it calculated a ballistic trajectory in 30 seconds, where a human calculation by hand required 20 hours. In 1945, the mathematician von Neumann proposed a general architecture for building computers. This has a central processing unit, CPU, which contains an arithmetic and logic unit, ALU, a control unit, CU, and registers, for the instruction after instruction execution of a program, loaded in a RAM, random access memory, after its transfer with the data, from an external, non-volatile secondary mass memory, called today, hard disk. Very quickly, technology made a qualitative leap, thanks to the invention of the transistor by Brattain and Bardeen in 1948. This small and faster semiconductor device replaced the vacuum tube, electromechanical switches, magnetic cores. It paves the way for the miniaturization of electronic circuits, by considerably increasing their performance in computing speed. Thus, the TRADIC, for transistor digital computer, was the first transistorized computer. It was built in the USA in 1954. Subsequently, the integration of several transistors on a semiconductor silicon chip makes it possible to manufacture complex electronic logic circuits on a small surface. It gave birth in 1958 to integrated circuits in the workshops of Texas Instruments. This process of miniaturization, more and more small, will integrate on a small surface more and more complex functions for the processing of information. The small size of integrated circuits, their weight and reduced energy consumption, compared to discrete transistors, prompted their use in computers starting from 1962. One of the first computer using integrated circuits, known as solid logic technology, put on the market in 1965, was the IBM 360. At its beginnings, it could already execute up to 34,000 instructions per second, with a memory of 8 to 64 kilobytes. Its performance was increased in 1967 to 16 million instructions per second, with a main memory of up to 8 megabytes. But the crucial step of miniaturization came with the manufacture of large-scale integrated circuits, VLSI. Today an integrated circuit, with the size of a postage stamp, can contain over 1 billion transistors. They can integrate an entire CPU on a single silicon chip, later even an internal RAM memory, called cache memory, and a graphics processor. Hence, the first microprocessor in history, the 4004, was born in 1971 in the workshops of the firm Intel. Its performances seem modest today. With its 3,000 integrated transistors, it executes 60,000 operations per second. Today, 2021, the latest Intel Core i9 processor integrates around 4 billion transistors. It has 24 megabytes of cache memory, with frequencies up to 5 GHz, capable of performing billions of operations per second. This gives it great graphics power for games and virtual reality, without slowing down. The invention of the microprocessor made it possible to start the development process of personal computers, and later that of mobile phones. There was the Apple II in 1977, the IBM-compatible PC in 1981, Epson's first x80 laptop in 1981 too, the Pocket mobile phone in 1992, and finally smartphones, with the first Apple iPhone in 2007. The extraordinary development of information technology is due not only to the technology of the hardware, but to the development of the software too. Software is made up of programs. A program is a series of instructions, executed instruction after instruction by the Central Processing Unit, CPU, as we have already seen in the architecture of von Neumann. An instruction defines a task which can be a logic test, a calculation, a printing of an alphanumeric word or an information transfer, a graphic action on pixels, the generation of a sound, or of a movement. Advances in algorithmics, the invention of high-level programming languages, and the programs called compilers and interpreters that translate them into binary machine language, the only understood by the central processing unit of a computer, have facilitated writing complex software, and its transportability from one machine to another. The first 3 programming languages were developed in the 1950s. Fortran, for formula translator, specialized in scientific calculations. Lisp, for list processor, specialized in processing lists. COBOL, for common business-oriented language, specialized in the programming of management applications. Many more powerful languages will emerge later, such as Pascal in 1970, C in 1972, C++ in 1985, Java in 1985 too, and Python in 1991. In parallel with the progress in the hardware, The progress in the software and applications programming never ceased until today. In the area of operating systems, Unix was created by AT&T in the 1970s at the Bell Labs Research Center. An important step was taken by the creation by Microsoft of DOS, Disk Operating System, for PCs in 1981, followed by Windows in 1985, then Linux in 1991. The operating systems, intended for smartphones and touchscreen tablets first, and which subsequently extended to all connected objects, computers, televisions, and even automobiles, appeared with Apple's iOS, revealed with the iPhone in 2007, and Google Android in 2008. The third element that has boosted information technology is also progress in remote communication systems and networks. At the beginning, as we have seen, the networks were wired, then wireless, and next, spatial with the satellites of telecommunications. The first computer network, ARPANET, for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, was designed at the university by scientists for the U.S. military. It was connected in 1969 and had only 4 nodes. The concept of Internet was born with the idea of connecting several networks of ARPANET type together. This type of connection was named Interneting in 1972 by Kahn, which later became the Internet. Kahn and Cerf are considered to be the inventors of the Internet TCP/IP protocol. Internet Engineering Task Force published in 1983 the specifications of DNS, Domain Name System. DNS translates the domain names, in letters, to IP address, in numbers, which is used across networks. In 1984, 4 students from UC Berkeley University implemented the first DNS server. DNS servers eliminate the need for humans to remember IP addresses. What made the Internet a media for all audiences, was the invention in 1989 of HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, as well as HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, by the British engineer-researcher Berners-Lee, working at CERN in Switzerland. This protocol and this language firstly allow academics and researchers located anywhere in the world to easily publish on the Internet, consult and share a document. Just a short while later, this new way to write and publish becomes available to almost everyone. It is the birth of the web. Before this invention, one could send files by email, but not consult a single reference copy stored in a given place, available to all. The Global World Wide Web, abbreviated WWW, was born in 1992. To aid the search for information in documents stored on the web, it was necessary to create search engine browsers, such as Netscape in 1994, Internet Explorer in 1995, Yahoo in 1995-2, Google in 1998, Mozilla Firefox in 2002. All the 5 were born in the USA. Today, all secure transactions across the web are done using the HTTPS protocol, which was first introduced in 1994 for Netscape Navigator. But for the general public, it is the arrival of personal mobile phones, which revolutionized the world of communications. Analog 1G was launched in Japan in 1980, 2G with the digital GSM standard in 1991 in Finland, 3G for the first time in Japan in 2001. Using the UMTS standard, it transmits telephone voice, digital data, video and television, through the Internet. 4G in 2009 in Sweden. With its LTE standard, it allows Internet access, IP telephony, game services, high-definition mobile television and video conferencing. And finally, 5G began to roll out around the world in 2019. It offers higher download speeds, up to 10 gigabits per second. This makes new applications possible, including the Internet of Things, called IoT, and machine-to-machine communications. We end this video with 3 important notes. Today almost everything is becoming digital and connected. Starting from the collection of data, then link data to obtain information, then process the information to make it usable, then store the results locally or through the cloud, finally comes its exchange and its use. Data centers on the cloud. in addition to hosting servers and websites of all kinds, offer IT services to companies that cannot buy expensive equipment, and that require a very high level of logistics administration and maintenance personnel, that are expensive too. The life of information is sometimes represented in a pyramid. At the base we have the data, then their transformation into information, then the construction of knowledge with the information, and finally the use, wise or not, of the acquired knowledge.